Hi, it's me, Daphne. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be going through all the books I read in May, and I know it's coming out late once again. I gotta release these wrap-ups a little bit earlier in the month. I think I'm really excited about the new month, and I don't really feel like reflecting back, but I don't want them to come out too late for you guys. But here are my May books. I will say I read 5 books in May, and 3 of those 5 were novellas. And that's because May was taken over by this Survivor thing I was doing. I was in this online Survivor competition on Discord, and it became the main focus of my entire life. So I was not prioritizing reading nearly as much. I did have my book club selection for May, so that was like my other priority, and it was a big chunky book and took up most of my time as well when I did finally sit down to read. So I'm gonna go through the books in the order that I read them, and yeah, let's get started. The first book I read was Quarterback Sneak by Candy Steiner. This is the 3rd book in her Red Zone Rivals series. This is a new adult football sports romance series, and it's been really fun so far. I will say this one is my favorite out of the series so far. I gave it 5 stars. So this story is between Holden and Julep. I believe that's how you pronounce her name. Holden is the star quarterback on their college football team. I believe he is a senior and he's really trying to get drafted into the NFL, but he's recovering from an elbow injury, which is kind of like, is it elbow or shoulder? Some kind of arm injury that he sustained his freshman year. So he's a little behind and the recruiters weren't looking at him as much or whatever. So he's like hyper focused on that. And then Julep is new to the school. She is the new coach's daughter and she's studying to be a trainer. So not really a spoiler, but like early in the book, Holden kind of gets tackled wrong and re-injures his arm, and he has to go through physical therapy for a couple weeks, and Julep is assigned as like a physical trainee to assist with his workout routines to like heal the injury. And then they get to know each other and it's their romance. Julep is quite a cold, reserved character. She has some traumas in her past that are a bit dark and sad related to the death of a loved one. She has a little bit of like substance abuse history, and she's got a lot of issues she's dealing with. She also works through her problems through exercise. She particularly loves pole dancing, so she has like a pole in her apartment and stuff, and reading about that aspect of her life was really fun and interesting. And she happens to live across the street from where Holden lives at like the football frat house. So they're running into each other a lot on campus, working together and all this stuff, and Holden is very attracted to her, but he's trying to stay focused and he doesn't want to cross any lines with her because she's just like not really that interested. But he like breaks through and it's just so sweet. Holden is like cinnamon roll hero to the max. He has a lot of trauma in his past too, but like just the way he approaches life is just so positive and like hopeful that it's just like what Julep needs, and I loved him. Also, because Julep is the daughter of the football coach is like, nobody's gonna touch my daughter, like stay away from my daughter, like that's what keeps them apart, which at times felt a little ridiculous because it's like, okay, like the coach is like going too far. Like, I don't know, he's like threatening Holden to like lie to recruiters and say that like Holden is, you know, I don't know, like he was just trying to like ruin Holden's career if he found out that Holden was involved with his daughter. That just felt like way too far and like ethically seriously cross lines. Like nobody could really do that, and like I don't know, you can't just ruin a kid's career on lies. Like that is so unethical. But whatever, we move on. I would definitely recommend it. I loved it so much, and the series is really fun as well. Then I tried to read Blood Mercy. I was doing this as a buddy read with Hannah and Kristen. I'm gonna link their channels down below. We wanted to check this out. It's a very popular vampire series, but the book is so long, and then the series is also really long. I think it's at least like 7 books right now, and I don't even think it's finished. But we were all trying to read it together, and we were DMing about it on Instagram, and we were struggling so hard to get through it. Like, I know this is really popular, so it will work for some people, and it might still work for you, but for us, like, the writing style was almost unbearable. I had to keep rereading sentences. I'm like, do I even know how to read? Just like the way the words were structured was just really unnatural for me to get through. And then there was like this whole scene where it was just pure info dumping. Our main male character is like sitting drinking tea with his uncle, and it's just like 2 full chapters, pages after pages of them just like explaining like how the world works. And I'm just like, can I just learn this organically? You don't have to like throw everything at me. And I particularly hate when authors are just like name dropping a ton of characters that I haven't met in person, you know what I mean? So it's like, oh, my best friend this guy who's married to this guy, and my cousin this guy who's married to and it's like, why are you telling me all these names out of context? Like, can I at least like meet them and like have more context of the story and like wrap my head around a couple things at a time, versus you just trying to be like, okay, here's my storyboarding, I'm just gonna tell you all the storyboarding up front, and it's just overwhelming. So I was like, I don't want to read this. And thankfully, Hannah and Kristen were like, I'm not vibing with this either. So it like relieved the guilt, because I was going to force myself to read it, but I was like, this is going to ruin my month if I have to read this huge book, and I'm hating it. So I'm so sorry if you love that book. Please tell me like your thoughts on it if you really do like it, and what aspects you do like, because I just couldn't get through the writing style and the info dumping. And I know Hannah, I believe Hannah or Kristen, either of them mentioned that they weren't really vibing with the fact that the hero was kind of like a soft boy, I guess. Like, he just wasn't like that interesting. Like, he wasn't like tough or like alpha or like interesting or like a warrior kind of guy. He was just kind of like, oh, like, he was just kind of like meek, I guess. I don't know. We just weren't vibing with him either. So we all DNF'd that. Then I continued my Jessica Cain reading experience, only because sometimes I just want something smutty, and her novellas are just so micro small that I'm like, okay, I could just read this in one night. So I picked one of hers up, and it was An Innocent Obsession. So this story is between Emery and Clark. Emery is like just recently turned 18, of course, Jessica Cain style, for most of her books that I've read so far. Not all of them, but most of them. She just turns 18. She's like an orphan. She's like living in this orphanage for a while. She works part-time at like an office building doing like file work, and then also works part-time cleaning houses. So she cleans houses at Clark's place. Clark has never met her, but she is obsessed with him. She like saw him in a magazine. He's like this CEO, eco billionaire guy. And since she was like 14 and she saw his picture, she's been obsessed with him and like sees him as like daddy. As she got older, like sexualized him and stuff. So the other job at the office building is at his office. So one day she's tasked with like bringing documents up to him, and he sees her and he's like, oh my God, who are you? I need you right now. And it's like hella insta-lovey, which is like fine. But then it just goes too far with the kinks that Jessica Cain likes to write, with like this daddy, like little girl thing that just like grosses me out. It's just too much. Like, it's one thing to like just say it as titles, but then they start role playing these like daddy little girl scenarios, whereas if she's actually his real daughter, and like that's just not cool, okay? That's just gross. That's just purely gross. You know what I mean? Like, why are you pretending that she's actually your daughter, an underage girl, and you're doing stuff with her, like sexual stuff with her? It just makes me want to die. You know what I mean? That is just too far. Like, if you want to call somebody daddy, like, power to you, whatever. But like, when he starts role playing that like you're actually a minor that is blood related to him, and he's like taking like, that's just so nasty. And like in Jessica Cain's books too, they always jump 5 years, right? And they'll have kids or whatever. And I was thinking it when I read another one of her books this current month in June. So I'll talk about that later in another wrap up. But like, as a woman, I don't know how I could trust my own partner with my daughter when he's into like role playing that kind of kink about having nasty time with his own daughter. Like I get that the men are obsessed with the women, like the female leads, but like, it's disturbing. It's disturbing. So I like reading Jessica Caines when she doesn't do that, because it's fun. It hits the spot, but then like you get to the 85% mark and you just cross the line too much. The line is always just crossed. You know what I mean? And it's disappointing. So if you have any novella, smutty romance recommendations that I should read besides her, that would be greatly appreciated, because sometimes I just want something that's like candy, really quick. She just like ruins the fun. Like sometimes I'm like, dude, why you gotta go so far? Like, stop being freaking weird. Sorry if that's judgy, but like, I think it's that's not for me. So I ended up giving that 2.5 stars because I was like, dude, this was fun until you ruined it. And then I read another Jessica Caines because I'm a sucker for punishment apparently. And that one was called Burly. So I read a couple in this kind of series with like these bulkier men. So this story is between Angelica and Murph. So again, Angelica is like barely legal. Murph is friends with her father. He's like an assassin or something for the military. He does all these like secret missions. And Angelica is like trying to be a pop star, you know? And Murph has been obsessed with her for too long. For too long. For her to just be 18, he's been obsessed with her for too long. You know what I mean? That it makes it uncomfortable. But everything that happens is always technically legal. It's just like barely ethical. Barely ethical. So they have some kind of moment at Angelica's house, like right under the nose of her father. Nothing like really happens, but Angelica knows now that Murph is attracted to her, and he like runs off for like a year. And within that year, Angelica becomes this famous pop star. Her career really blew up, but she has this stalker and she's scared. So Murph comes back to protect her because he has all those skills, and then their relationship kind of progresses from there. But then again, it has this like daddy little girl kink thing that is just like icky and ruins the fun. Like, it's kind of fun. It's fun. It's like kind of, you're like, okay, I'll like ignore the problematic stuff, but then it's fun. And then you get to that part and you're like, why you gotta say that? Why you gotta do that? So it was the same problem with this story as well. So I'm giving this a 2.5 as well. It's really dragging down my average rating here for the year, but I gotta be true to myself. Why am I doing this to myself? I don't feel good making it 3 stars to just like boost my average rating, but like, I just gotta stop reading so much Jessica Caines if it's gonna have this kink in it. Like, I wish I could just read the ones that don't have that. Ugh, guys. Apparently May was not the month for reading. So I read another novella. This was by Casey Mint, so somebody else. And this book was called Pool Girl. So the main characters in this story are Tanner and Elsie. Tanner is like a 30-something-year-old man that has some war injuries, like he's got a limp, and he works in the pool house at this apartment complex, and Elsie lives there with her sister. So she is like a mermaid at an aquarium, so she just loves the water. So she like works in the water, and then every day after work she goes and lays out at the pool, like on her floaty, floating around in the water. And Tanner is always secretly watching her. How old she is not really specified, but I imagine she's like young 20s. I don't even know if she's like ever really seen Tanner's face, but she's intrigued and she likes being watched by him. So it's their relationship forming. And it was okay. I wanted to like it more. I think the story setup is fine. I just didn't really jive with the writing style that much. I just couldn't really connect with the characters nearly as much as other books. So again, I ended up giving it 2.5. I am so sorry, guys, that I don't have better news for May, but that's just the fact of the matter. And then the last book I officially read in May was Tattered Stars by Catherine Cowell. So I've been anticipating finally starting a Catherine Cowell series for a while. This is the first book in her Tattered and Torn series, which is like a romantic suspense series, and it's also small town. So this story is between Everly and Hayes. So Everly grew up pretty much in a culty kind of environment with these like doomsday prepper families. Her father was kind of erratic, just like mentally not well. He definitely needed to be on medication because he was an abusive father and husband, and like he was just off. So the father, ended up kidnapping this young girl who was Hayes' little sister. And Everly, when she's 11, takes her horse and rides off like miles through the mountains to get to the police station and reports her father, saying like, this missing girl, like my father has her. And that kidnapping like shattered Hayes' family. Everly saved this little girl. But for some reason, years go by, Everly's left to town, but for some reason she decides to come back. She has ownership of her old house because her like mother died or something. Her father's in jail. So when she comes back to town, Hayes finds out and he's pissed. Like, he's mad at her. Like, he's taking things out on her. And it's like, dude, she saved your sister. I don't know why you're mad at her. Like, you need to back off, And it's that kind of like hate to love romance story with him like getting to really know her and get over like blaming himself, blaming her family, hating her family, and all that drama. And then there's suspense involved because women are getting attacked in the town and they don't know by who or why. And I was entertained. I will say, with this being a romantic suspense, the suspense did take up a lot of the story. So when it came to the drama and the conflicts of the story, it was mainly the outside forces of the suspense plotline versus like drama and turmoil and like conflict within the relationship growing and building. So after a certain point, it wasn't like insta love, but it kind of felt insta love just because it was easy. Like, they got together kind of easily. There wasn't a lot of conflict with them getting together. It was just a lot of drama with the suspense part of the plot, which I don't care as much about, to be honest. Like, it was interesting enough. Like, I was intrigued, but I want there to be like a more interesting build up and intrigue and like drama and tension and pining when it comes to the relationship, and I didn't feel that as much in this first book. I am still excited to continue the series though, because you meet a lot of the side characters, the family members, the cousins, the best friends, things like that, and I'm sure they're going to get their own spin-off because I think there's 4 or 5 books in this series. So I will be continuing, and hopefully they get better as I go along. And now, lastly, I've decided to talk about Jade City. I technically finished this June 1st, so it's not really a part of my May wrap-up, but I read it clearly mostly in May. This is my book club pick for May, and I absolutely adored this book. I gave it 5 stars. I do have a spoiler vlog for this book that I can link up in the cards and down in the description for you if you want to check it out. But if you just want the short gist, I was absolutely in love with this. There is so much beautiful character building, world building, political tension and turmoil, and the whole thing just made so much sense. And there are just these wonderful, beautiful lines, and the insights of these characters are just like sometimes so thought-provoking and wise, and just like each character is so unique. So if you don't know anything about this story, this is an urban fantasy mainly about the Call family. So they are these jade-wielding warrior people. They are in this clan, which is pretty much like a gang called No Peak, and they have a rival clan called the Mountain Clan, and they are fighting over territory in this city. But for the most part, it's been kind of peaceful. But for some reason, things are starting to crack, and a gang war is imminent. And let's just say a lot of trouble ensues, and things that really broke my heart. And I don't really know what else to say about this because I've probably said so much in my spoiler vlog, so I'm gonna keep it short here. Definitely check it out if you want all my detailed thoughts if you've read this already. But if you haven't read it, I definitely highly recommend it. It was so fun and so beautifully executed. All right, so those are all the books that I read in May. It wasn't the most successful month, but I was like so distracted, like I said, with other things going on in my life. June has been going better so far, I think. So that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please feel free to leave it a thumbs up and subscribe down below if you haven't already. Obviously, it would really help my channel out and I would greatly appreciate it. I've recently hit 2,000 subscribers. It's so cool. I'm really grateful for everyone that's here that wants to spend time with me and watch my videos and interact with me on live shows. It's been so much fun getting to do this booktube thing with new friends online. And yeah, I'm just really grateful for it all. And I hope I can continue to entertain you guys and give you some fun book recommendations along the way. So thank you so much for everything, and I will catch you in another video. Bye!